Welcome back to Books and Bites. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Fyodor Dostoevsky's Demons. It was published in 1872, but this book really packs a punch even all these years later.
It's really fascinating how Dostoevsky takes you to this seemingly quiet Russian town and uses it to show you a society that's right on the edge. He just weaves these huge ideas like nihilism and revolution and the search for meaning into the lives of these really unforgettable characters.
And yeah, they're certainly not boring. Dostoevsky definitely isn't afraid to show us the darker parts of human nature. And he even draws inspiration from a real event, this murder of a student by a revolutionary group.
Right, and that real-life connection just adds this chilling layer to everything. It really makes you think about how ideology, any ideology, can twist even the best intentions into something really monstrous. And we see this play out so clearly with the character of Nikolai Stavrogin. He's a nobleman, recently back from exile, and there's just this cloud of mystery hanging over him.
Yeah, he's definitely not your typical hero. Right from the beginning, he does some pretty shocking things, like biting off a man's ear during a duel. It makes you wonder, what's driving him?
Well, Dostoevsky uses these shocking acts to give us a glimpse into Stavrogin's nihilism, this complete disregard for life, everyone's, even his own. It's a huge warning sign that something's just deeply wrong with him.
And then there's Pyotr Verkovensky, who's this cunning revolutionary who just seems to thrive on stirring up trouble.
Yeah, Pyotr's not just some idealistic rebel, though, right? He's really hungry for power, he's so manipulative, and he's totally willing to exploit anyone to get what he wants. Makes you wonder about how ambition, even when it seems like it's disguised as something good, can just be so dangerous.
Totally. And what's really interesting is how Dostoevsky contrasts Pyotr with his father, Stepan, who represents this older generation of liberals.
Yeah, they wanted progress, but they might have unintentionally paved the way for the kind of radicalism that Pyotr embodies. Stepan's well-meaning, but he's totally blind to the dangerous forces he's helped to unleash.
Yeah, it's like a cautionary tale about those unintended consequences.
Definitely.
And then Pyotr doesn't work alone either. He assembles this whole group of revolutionaries, each with their own, unique brand of intensity. Like there's Kirillov, who is just obsessed with suicide as the ultimate expression of free will.
Yeah, it's a really dark and unsettling concept. Kirillov is just this really tragic figure. He's so desperate to find meaning in a world that he sees as godless, and sadly his only solution is this self-destruction. Dostoevsky explores the bleak side of existentialism through him, right? We see how the search for meaning, when it goes too far, can just lead to despair.
For sure. And then there's Shakov, who's actually trying to break free from this radical ideology. He's turning back toward more traditional Russian values.
Yeah, like he's just searching for solid ground in this world that feels like it's totally falling apart. Shatov's story is interesting because he's this glimmer of hope. He's someone who sees just how dangerous Pyotr's path is. But it's ironic because his turn towards Russian nationalism actually makes him a target for Pyotr's manipulation. It shows how even those who are seeking stability can get caught up in this extremism.
Right. As the story keeps unfolding, we start to uncover these disturbing rumors about Stavrogin's past. Like there's his marriage to Maria Lebyatkina, who's a disabled woman, and then this just horrifying revelation about his assault on a young girl, which ultimately leads to her suicide.
It's like Dostoevsky is peeling back these layers of this dark and troubled past. This is where we see just how depraved Stavrogin really is. He's completely haunted by his guilt, but it's like it keeps pushing him further and further into this darkness. Makes you question the nature of evil, Is it something we're born with, or is it something that our experiences shape?
It's true. Dostoevsky definitely isn't afraid to ask those tough questions. And then as the story progresses, Pyotr's revolution starts gaining all this momentum. Things just spiral so out of control. Then Shatov is brutally murdered right as he's finding this new purpose as a father.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking. It's such a loss of potential, and it just perfectly symbolizes the kind of destruction that radical ideology can bring. That murder is like this turning point in the story. It just totally exposes Pyotr's true nature.
For sure.
He's willing to eliminate anyone who even stands in his way, even people he used to be close to.
Wow.
It just shows how fanaticism can lead to such cruelty.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's Kirillov's suicide, which is, it's chilling, but it's also thought-provoking at the same time. He follows through on his twisted logic, but it's clear it's just pure despair driving him, not this genuine freedom he talks about.
Exactly. He's completely trapped. And Dostoevsky contrasts this with Stavrogin's suicide later, and that contrast just shows the different shades of despair that can cause someone to take their own life.
Right. And then Pyotr, this is just pure manipulation, he orchestrates this elaborate town festival, right? Which is supposed to be this distraction, but it just descends into total chaos.
Oh, yeah.
There are fires, riots, murders. It's a complete societal meltdown.
It's like watching a carefully constructed world just completely crumble. That the festival is such a powerful symbol, don't you think?
Yeah.
It just shows the breakdown of order and morality. Like it's this microcosm of what Pyotr's revolution really is. Not progress, just pure destruction. And then throughout all of this, Stavrogin is so detached, almost like he's a ghost, just watching all the carnage he helped to create.
Yeah, he's such an enigma, isn't he? Like he inspires all these intense emotions in other people, but he can't seem to feel anything himself. It makes you wonder if he's a product of this nihilistic world or if he's like the catalyst for its decay.
Yeah, it's a question that really lingers as we move into the next part of our deep dive. We've seen the rise of these demons and the chaos that they've unleashed, but there's still so much more to uncover.
There is. We still need to explore the tragic downfall of those who got caught in the crossfire and really unpack the full weight of Dostoevsky's message. So we'll be back in part 2 to continue our exploration of demons. Until then, keep those pages turning.
Welcome back to Books and Bites. We're still deep in the world of Dostoevsky's demons, and the last time we left off, things were really heating up, literally. The town was going up in flames, and things are about to get even more tragic for some of these characters.
Yeah, it's like watching this slow-motion train wreck. And one of the most heartbreaking stories has to be Liza Tishina's. She's this incredibly intelligent and passionate woman who just falls for Stavrogin. It's almost hard to watch her get caught in his web.
Liza really represents this naive idealism that Dostoevsky explores a lot in his books. She sees the good in Stavrogin, but she's completely blind to how destructive he is. It makes you think about how much our own desires and perceptions can blind us to reality.
Yeah, definitely. And her story takes this really brutal turn. She's desperately trying to escape Stavrogin's toxic influence, but then she gets caught in the middle of the riot and is brutally murdered.
It's awful. It's a reminder that innocence is often the first thing to be destroyed in a world that's consumed by chaos. Her death is symbolic, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's like the death of hope itself. And then there's Stavrogin, who's been such a mystery this whole time. He finally seems to break down under the weight of all this darkness.
Yeah, it's a fascinating arc. You know, he completely rejects Pyotr's revolution, almost like he suddenly realizes what a monster he helped to create. But he's so damaged that he just can't find a way back from the abyss he's in.
Right.
He chooses to isolate himself, he withdraws from everyone and everything, and then ultimately he takes his own life.
It's a bleak ending for such a complex character. It really leaves you with this feeling of unease, like there are all these unanswered questions. And his suicide is especially disturbing when you think about Kurilov's earlier in the book. Kurilov thought suicide was the ultimate freedom, like he was defying God and fate. But Stavrogin's just feels different.
Yeah, totally.
There's no freedom in it at all.
None.
Stavrogin's suicide is born out of pure despair. It's like he's completely surrendering to this emptiness that he feels inside. It's the culmination of a life that's just steeped in nihilism.
Dostoevsky really forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths about what it means to be human. He doesn't make things easy for us, does he? He doesn't give us any easy answers.
Not at all.
It's like he's holding up this mirror to society, making us look at the darkness that's inside all of us and in the world that we're creating.
It's heavy, but it's so important, and it's even more powerful because even though the revolution fails and it seems like order is restored in the town, there's still this feeling that something's broken that can't be fixed.
Yeah, you're right. It's like the town and the people in it have been changed forever by what happened. These characters, these demons, have exposed just how fragile society really is. And they've shown the dark potential that's lurking beneath the surface of even the most civilized places.
It makes you wonder, are these demons something outside of us, or are they just part of who we are? Is it even possible to get rid of them completely, or are we always going to be fighting them?
These are questions that just stay with you long after you finish the book. Demons isn't just a story. It's an experience. It makes you think critically about the world and your place in it. It makes you question everything good and evil, the power of ideas, and the search for meaning in a world that often feels meaningless.
And it really makes you think, are we all vulnerable to these demons? Could we find ourselves caught up in their web? Are we strong enough to resist them as individuals and as a society?
Yeah, those are some pretty big questions. And those are some of the questions that we're going to keep exploring as we go into the final part of our deep dive into demons. We'll look closer at the ending and what it all means and why it still matters to us today. Stay tuned. we're not done yet. Welcome back to Books and Bites. We're wrapping up our deep dive into Dostoevsky's Demons. And man, what a journey this book has taken us on. From this quiet little town to just this eruption of total chaos and violence. It's been a wild ride through some really dark parts of human nature.
It's definitely not a light read, but it really sticks with you. The way Dostoevsky explores these huge themes, like the danger of these radical ideologies, feels so relevant even today.
Totally. So let's talk about the ending. We see the revolution just completely fall apart and Fyodor Dostoevsky running away like a coward, leaving this trail of destruction in his wake. It's almost like the whole thing was doomed right from the beginning.
Yeah, there's definitely this sense of inevitability to it all. Like Dostoevsky's saying that these radical ideologies, with all their promises of utopia, just carry the seeds of their own destruction. They just consume everything, even their most devoted followers.
And the consequences reach so far beyond the revolutionaries themselves. We see Stepan Verkovensky, Fyodor's father, die a broken man. He realizes way too late that his own ideals may have actually led to his son's extremism.
It's heartbreaking, like he represents this whole generation that maybe put too much faith in reason and progress without really understanding how those ideas could be twisted and corrupted.
Yeah, it's definitely a cautionary tale. Dostoevsky seems to be telling us to be more critical, to question everything, and to be really careful about anyone who promises easy solutions to really complex problems. It's a message that's so relevant today, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, we're surrounded by these different ideologies and promises of easy answers. But Dostoevsky reminds us that the search for truth and meaning requires us to really think things through and to be willing to wrestle with the hard stuff, not just the easy answers, and to really try to understand human nature.
Right. And even though things eventually calm down and order seems to be restored in the town, there's this lingering sense of loss and disillusionment. It's like the town and the people who live there have been changed forever by what they went through.
It shows how long trauma can last for individuals and entire communities. The scars stay even after things seem okay on the surface.
Right. And that feeling, that unease, like things will never be the same, is part of what makes Demons such a haunting and thought-provoking book.
It's not just a historical novel or a political thriller. It's like this deep reflection on what it means to be human, this struggle between good and evil, faith and doubt, hope and despair. It makes us look at ourselves, face our own demons, and try to find meaning in a world that can feel so chaotic.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Demons, what do you think is the most important thing for our listeners to take away? What's the one idea that you hope sticks with them?
I think Dostoevsky's message is one of warning, but also hope. He's warning us about the dangers of just giving up on everything, the appeal of these extreme beliefs, and the need for all of us to take responsibility for our ideas. But he also reminds us that faith, love, and compassion are powerful. Even in the darkest times, those things can guide us towards something better.
I love that. If you're ready to grapple with these huge themes yourself, we really encourage you to pick up a copy of Demons using the link in the description. You won't regret it.
And if you like this deep dive into Dostoevsky's work, be sure to subscribe to Books and Bites for more discussions about amazing and thought-provoking books. Until next time, happy reading.